Now we'll use a little different method to mirror the back end like we did the front. Okay, so we've got one piece created for this front part. We need to do the same thing for this back section right here. And it's nice because we have this cut into panels here, so we only have to worry about this part, not necessarily the whole thing. So let's take a look at this. And we're going to do this piece a little bit different than we did the front part. And let's go ahead and I'm just going to get rid of some of these faces here. We don't necessarily need. I'm going to get rid of these, all these guys. Right here, anything that's facing the back, basically, I'm just going to get rid of those. All the way down to this corner right here. Okay. All right, so we need to get this piece over to the other side, basically. So one way that we can do that without mirroring, we can actually scale it in a negative x, which you may have done before. Just a couple things to be aware of when you do that, so let's take a look at those. First, I'm going to take off two-sided lighting. Under lighting here, I'm going to take that off. And if you can see that, you can see we have some pieces that are black and some pieces that are gray. Well, the black pieces basically have their normals reversed, so they think that the inside is actually the side you want to see. So they're a little bit backwards. So what you can do to fix that is to select your piece, go up to normals, and just say you want to reverse those normals. Okay, and that's going to fix that. Do it to that piece, and it's good to sometimes work with two-sided lighting off so that those pieces that may be created with reverse normals become apparent to you. Now you'll want to be in, you want to make sure it's in a polygon before you won't be able to do it on a sub-D surface, reverse normals that is. So you want to make sure that you're working on a polygon there, and I'm just going to reverse those normals. Those should be reversed. And let's take a look. Okay, so this looks all right. Now let's take a look at what happens here. Now that I have that two-sided lighting off. Okay, the center point of my piece back here is at the origin, which is what we want. If it was centered, all you'd have to do would be to Control G to group it to itself, and it would go ahead and create a new group with the center point at the origin. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it, Control D, and I want to flip it across X. So if we take a look at this, scaling X, if I scale that down, you can see it gets closer and closer to the origin until you get to 0, when it's completely flat against the X axis there. Okay. So if I keep scaling it beyond into the negative, let's go to -1. -1. It'll be the same size. It will just be across the x-axis, and it will be essentially mirrored. Now the problem comes, you have this negative value in your channel box here. You want to freeze that out. Okay. When you do that, to freeze those transforms, and you look down here, it says freeze transform with negative scale will affect opposite attribute. Okay. So you can see that now. This is reversed our normals essentially. If I go into my attribute editor and I go into render stats here, you can see that this opposite value has been turned on because the freezing those negative transforms, Maya's trying to figure out and compensate for what's going on. So I'm going to turn off double-sided, and I'm going to fix that by turning off the opposite attribute, turn back on double-sided. You can see that now all I have to do is reverse my normals. And now we've got this piece of geometry here. Okay. So now we've got these two pieces. Let's go into our top view and check those out. We've got these two pieces here. So basically we want to have these connect, but we don't want them to connect all the way across here. We want to connect behind the trunk. So we need to actually add a line right there and a line right there. And then we're going to use something called bridge. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into my back view just to check that out. So there's our two pieces. So we basically want to connect these across the way. Okay, so there's a neat tool that we can use called the bridge tool, and that's going to connect any border edges that you want together. Okay, so all you have to do is select your two pieces, and they have to be one piece, so I'm going to just combine those. Delete that history. Now you can see they're one piece. And now all I have to do is select border edges, and in this case I only want those that are behind the where we have the trunk. You see right here. And I don't want any on the side. I basically just want this edge, I guess, and this edge. Okay? And so we've got those two edges selected. Now we can go edit mesh and we want to do a bridge. There's a few ways you can do it. A linear path will give you a completely straight piece of geometry across here. A smooth path will kind of blend between. And a smooth path plus a curve will give you a curve that you can manipulate. So if you want to make a curved bridge between something and you want to be able to change that curve, you can choose path and curve. Now if you want to have a curve, you want to make sure that you do this from the beginning because you can't go back and add a curve later. Okay. In this case, I just want a linear curve, so I'm going to choose that. I'm going to bump these divisions down to 3, and we'll check that out. You can see it's created geometry right between there, just a straight line, which is what we want. So essentially, instead of extruding that piece over to the origin and then mirroring, it's just a little different way to get to the same place. Okay, so we could have taken this edge, extruded it over, popped it to the origin, mirrored it over, and got kind of the same result. So just be aware there are a few different ways of doing things. Alright, so now let's go ahead and bridge the rest of this. And I think I want to actually trying to decide how much of this to bridge because we have this wheel here. Let's go ahead and just bridge. Let's just bridge the bottom part for now. And so I'm just going to select these bottom edges and these bottom edges right here all the way across. Make sure you don't miss any. You can get extra edges as long as they're not border edges. Okay, you can just select any of these and it won't matter. It'll figure out which ones are border edges. But if you have extra border edges selected, it will try to bridge between those as well. Okay, so I'm just going to do another bridge. Alright, so that just creates a nice square piece all the way across there. So that's working pretty well for us. So now we're starting to get this back end filled in. I'm going to go ahead and delete my history. Alright, so let's go ahead and in the next lesson we're going to go in, start filling in this back end with geometry, start drawing it out, and start extruding in some of those pieces that we see in the back end here.